But very interesting there, someone says that you did very well in agriculture. I'm not sure you did you?
I guess he was talking about the Kidero grass and the new and the new improvements that Governor Sonko is doing on.
Did he just insinuate
Highway.
that grass is part of agriculture?
I guess because you use hose and you dig, so it must be part of agriculture. But also, I mean, our friend just came to Nairobi recently. He said he's just been in Nairobi in 2 years.
It's been 2 years. Now, Governor, I'm trying to look at the statements of control of budget during your time in office, and I'm looking at 2013-14, that you spent 1.8 billion shillings on development. You spent how much on salaries? 10.3 billion shillings. On operations, you spent 2.9. So, in essence, you spent about 10% on development in the first year in office, 2013-14. In 2014-15, it went a little high to about 23%. And currently we have a conversation about counties that are not spending sufficient money, at least 30% on development. What is so hard while at the City Hall to spend money on development projects?
You know, the biggest expenditure in Nairobi during my time and during Sonko's time is on human resources. And these are people whom we inherited from the defunct city council. And the sharing formula, which depended on population, area, and poverty index, quite disadvantaged Nairobi. So the amount of money you get was not sufficient for us to be able, actually 78%. Of the money was going into our heads. Thirdly, in terms of revenue collections, I think we did quite well because we doubled revenue collections. That's why probably we were able to spend a little bit more money. But the government who probably, who should be paying their dues like rates, they don't. And you remember our going theme where the government actually owed, by the time I left City Hall, the government owed City Hall 72 billion shillings, which to date I don't think has been paid. And if the government paid that, the government paid their dues to the county government, Nairobi county government, the story would be totally different. Yet,
during your time and even now, there are a lot of complaints about corruption at City Hall, especially in revenue collection, and then again in the penalties that you have to level against persons that are caught in the wrong side of the law. You are not able to exterminate this.
I mean, the corruption is something that is with us. Actually, I'm a victim. When I got into City Hall,
what do you mean a victim?
I knew that this was a big issue. I invited EACC and we signed a memorandum of understanding and we gave them access, and probably that's why you've seen a lot more cases coming out of Nairobi County than anywhere else. And actually, I mean, I still support that corruption is a vice which must be completely brought down. But we also did reduce it because our revenue collection, albeit increase in rates and automation of the funds collection process, we doubled. We went from 6 billion shillings to 13 billion shillings. And looking at the most recent report, I think that has gone a little bit down. So two things must happen. More than half of the county government employees are not productive. They need to, the county government, we need to get money to have sufficient staff who are effective, who will be able to deliver service that is required.
Did you ever focus on that?
No, we did, but I mean, we talked to World Bank. World Bank moved out of funding programs that reduce staff. You know, they were not very happy with what happened at railways. When the railway was, when people were retrenched at railway. So it was something which we were discussing with government. Even as Council of Governors, we discussed with government that all counties were having staff that they did need, and they needed to have money to kind of release them so that the few remaining workers would be effective in delivering service to the counties.
Right. And Governor Kidero, you say that you are a victim of corruption. And I want to exactly understand what you mean with that, because recently I've seen you arrested 2 times. I think the first time was in August, or on August 9th. Then you were also arrested in, was it September 20th or thereabout? And you are facing charges. One of them involves money that is said to have been lost to the tune of 200 million shillings. I wouldn't want to get into the nitty-gritties of the case, but is there a possibility that while in office you oversaw a corruption den of sorts?
One, I mean, you're right, because the case is in court, we cannot discuss it. But as you know, as a governor, a governor does not procure, and a governor does not approve any expenses, but the overall responsibility is with him. And all I can say is that in the fight of corruption, we just must remain objective. There should be no malice and witch hunt. Most of the cases are objective, and I think will be determined and so. But there are a few cases which there is malice and witch hunt.
Tell me about that experience when they raided your home and in the night.
I guess these are the things that we're looking at in court, because there's no reason why somebody should come to your house at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's no reason why somebody should, if they come to do a search, take documents which do not belong to the person to whom the warrant has been addressed to. But these are issues in court, so probably I don't think it's appropriate for us to discuss it. But there should be no malice and there should be no witch hunt.
Still, a report is cited of KPMG report that looked at the revenues of the city to the tune of about 21 billion shillings that was collected in revenue could not be accounted for. Yes, you said that during your time you did very well in collecting revenue in the city, but then again an auditor's report says that could not be accounted for. What was happening under your watch?
The official audit for counties is the Auditor General. And the only audit that is recognized by government is the Auditor General. And when I had that report, I did ask the Auditor General if they were aware of this audit. They were not. So I'm unable to comment on it because I can only comment on official audit by the Auditor General.
We'll shortly be crossing over to speak to Governor Mike Sonko, who is at the coast. He'll be talking to us live on phone. But before we do that, we now have a government that is total contrast from what you had while in office. We have a governor who doesn't have a deputy governor. He is missing 5 CECs, County Executive Committee members. From where you sit, how possible, how easy or hard is it to run a government without a deputy, without 5 CECs?
I mean, running a government is hard in itself. But probably we need to understand what are the issues that Governor Sonko is going for. What I can tell you that running a county government is a walk in the park. So Governor Sonko must
Is a walk or is not?
It's not a walk in the park.
Okay.
So he must have good reasons why this has happened. And I'm sure he has got plans to rectify them. And since it is mandate, I think we need to give him the opportunity and time to do what he needs to do.
Quite moderate of you. But still, all these are resignations, some of them sackings. We saw the governor coming out, I believe, sometimes during the Pumwani saga, was it in April or June last year? And when some of the CECs disagreed with him in as far as the bodies that were found at the Pumwani hospital, they were suspended. From where you sit, how should you manage such kind of situations despite your personality as a governor?
Now, what I do know is that issues, be they issues of discipline, be they issues of effectivity or ineffectivity, there are objective ways of looking at them. There are governance processes and systems. And I think Governor Sonko is going through those governance systems and processes to manage those situations. So whatever decision he makes is based on that. Because, Governor Sonko is a fairly experienced person. He was a member of parliament for Kidero. He was a senator for Nairobi. He was my opposite number in the Senate. And now he's governor. And I think, what we can do as Nairobians, because we all want services, and is our governor, is see how best we can help him to move on.
Right. Wakumbwi Omurunga, we're still trying to reach Governor Sonko. So if Governor Sonko, you're watching, we're trying to call you, please pick up. Wakumbwi Omurunga says that what legacy did Dr. Evans Kidero leave post Mumias Sugar Company? If Mumias was a failure, how would Nairobi gubernatorial role succeed? And I think I want to rephrase the question and say, today we have the Mumias Sugar Company that still has not recovered from the collapse that it went through. We have had attempts by the government to pump in millions of shillings, hundreds of billions of shillings into it, and nothing comes out, nothing succeeds. Today, we have a task force that is working to ensure that it is revived. And most of these people blame you while you are the managing director of that institution.
Sugar is a crop, is a seasonal crop. You can only mill and have sugar when you have the crop. And during my time, the 10 years I was there, I made sure that there was 70,000 acres of crop, which we milled and produced 230,000 tons of sugar to 260,000 tons of sugar every year. And this started when I went. The year I got in 2003, the company had made a loss of 500 million. The first year we made a profit of $1 billion. And we kept on making profits until after I left, cumulative 15 billion shillings. And even when I was leaving, my advice to the board then, that for continuity, there must be cane. And what Mumias is suffering now is lack of cane, because new factories have come up. When farmers are not being paid, they are delivering their cane elsewhere. Others have stopped planting cane altogether because they are not being paid. But we do know as well that there were political interferences where the politicians were telling farmers to uproot cane. And the answer is simple. You cannot make ugali if you don't have unga.
But you see, Governor, partly the success of a leader is based on what they did while in office, and it is seen in the success of those people that succeed him. While you were in office, yes, you're saying that you were able to raise revenues, raise the profitability of the farm, you gave your advice, but then again, soon after you left, there was the collapse of the Mumias Sugar.
I think where you're not right is that the managing director is appointed by the board. And I was appointed by the board, and I worked with the board hand in hand. And when I was leaving, and even in my handover notes, I made specific recommendations of things that needed to be done, both in terms of management and both in terms of cane availability and cane productivity. And probably some of these were not followed. And you know, it takes only 1 year. You don't produce cane for 1 year, the second year, you're down.
So when you look at Mumias Sugar as it is, earlier on, I believe on the 28th, 29th and 30th of December, we had a story, a three-part series story on sugar sector in the country running, and Samogin and Pfizer Maganga were able to show the situation at Mumias Sugar of standard equipment that had been purchased, but it's not operational, of plantations of sugar that is not being utilized to process sugar. Actually, part of it is being burnt. So when you look at this entire sector, the sugar sector and Mumias specifically, what do you think needs to be done to get it back on its feet?
I think two things. One, let me start with factories outside Mumias. Places like Chemer and Muhoroni, these are old factories. They need to be revitalized, and they need to go from one product to multi-product, the way we did in Mumias. Two, we must produce cane. We must plant cane, because unless there's cane, we'll never be able to produce sugar. I think this week I've read 3-4 articles in Mumias. The reason Mumias is not running is not because the equipment is moribund, it's because it does not have cane. You give it cane, it will run.
But I just told you, the story that Samogina did, it shows plantations of sugar within Mumias, what is the name you call them? The Mumias Sugar land.
There are two sets of plantations. There is what you call the nucleus estate,
yes,
which is owned by the company, which even as we speak, there's no cane. And also there is cane produced by what you call the outgrowers. But you must facilitate outgrowers. You must help them with plowing. You must help them with the seed cane. You must supply them with the fertilizer. And in cases where farmers have failed to weed, you must intervene and help them weed. And once the cane is harvested, you pay them in time. It's a vicious circle. So the cane industry must go in an aggressive, must do an aggressive cane development program. That's the only way this will rise, and this requires funding.
Are you willing to offer your skills to rejuvenate the sugar sector? And have you done anything so far?
I've given my ideas. I've given my ideas to the people who are in the industry. I continue to give my ideas to the people in the industry. But for the time being, I offered myself to come and work in Nairobi. I'm on a small break, and when the time comes, I'll decide.
Okay, so let's get back to Dr. Evans Kidero, the person and the politician. And now you're saying that for 17 months you've been taking a break, reading the Bible, getting to interact with the family more. So what next for the politician, Dr. Evans Kidero?
I'll continue doing the same. And as I said, I am. And we will continue giving service to Nairobians, either at a formal level or an informal level, the way I've done it.
Would you run for governorship again?
Time will tell.
Presidency?
Time will tell.
So you haven't planned your...
But I think even before we get there, it is important to note some developments that have happened in our country, especially the handshake between our president and Raila Amolo Odinga. The political temperatures have cooled. We've seen the business environment is moving. And what they are saying is spot on, that we must move from every election cycle. We have violence, we have petitions, because people feel they've been left out. And I am in total support of the Building Bridges initiative, and to ensure that all Kenyans feel that they are represented, so that after every election cycle, we don't have to go through what we went through in 1992, 1997, 2007, 2013, and partly 2017. So the Building Bridges team, the recommendations that they're going to come up with, I think will need to be looked at and robustly supported.
All right, I want to look at some of the feedback of what people are saying. Someone is saying that, this is John Mudindi. We county workers, Governor Kidero terrorized us so much. Salary delays, job dismissals, arrogantly so, migomo now and then. Thanks to Governor Sonko, he reinstated some workers, and now we get our salaries on time. Is that true assessment of your leadership?
I wouldn't know, because I'm not sure what time they get their salaries. But when I got to the county government, salaries were being delayed for 3 to 4 months. But throughout my time, we paid salaries in time. I guess I was a lot more stricter. I did not dismiss people because I didn't like their face. But people had to be productive. They had to give services. And obviously, I don't remember that particular name, but I guess if we looked at the appraisals, he wouldn't be one of the top performers during my term.
Wow. John Mudinde, that's the response of the governor to you. One more feedback, if we can look at it. Yes, you don't leave your name, but you said Dr. Kidero did not demolish any kiosk or took away any bus stop at the GSU roundabout. He had a team to work with, including the deputy, he had a protocol. All the above are no longer there with the current Nairobi County. Do you think that's a correct assessment of your leadership?
No, we just need to say that there's variety and people are different. Probably my style was different, so the perception was different. Our acceptability and acceptance was different. But also the current governor is doing things in his own stride and style.
Then someone else is saying that Dr. Kidero is full of wisdom on daybreak. Why didn't he do that at City Hall while he was in office? That is Elijah Okemwa.
Probably I did, but he didn't see. But we'll continue to do.
Of course, now what he's referring to is it is difficult for people to see the thoughts until you implement them. The people can interact with them. And that is why the question about the roads in Nairobi, I'm sure today while you drive, I don't know where you live, but as you drive around the city, especially the the interiors, you'll see a situation of roads that are still in dilapidated state, especially when it rains. You are never able to fix this.
You know, Nairobi has two types of roads. There are the county roads and there are the Kura roads, Kenya Urban Road Network. And we did what we did, and we worked with Kura to fix the roads. Obviously, when it rains, you get deterioration. But what is important is how fast do you fix it. And I think we did that.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to look at one more thing that someone is saying that, if I can get that correctly. Anyway, I'm trying to trace it now. Good morning. I trust that through this platform I can air my concern as much as it doesn't concern Governor Kidero per se. Well, if it doesn't concern Kidero, we cannot.
I think no, but if it concerns Nairobians, okay. I guess...
Rhoda Nyabeta, a civil servant, and I tragically... No, we can't. It doesn't relate to this. Now, I'm very happy with the former governor for what he did, but remind him that let him come home because home is the best. We're waiting for him in Homa Bay to be governor 2022. Achana Nairobi, arudi home huku hata ibiwa. Would you consider that?
Mwambie Nairobi ndio nyumbani kwangu.
Really?
Yeah.
You have no roots in Homa Bay?
Yeah. Nairobi's home. I was born here.
Okay.
I lived here. Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, so when you look at Governor Sonko and the situation that he's going through, he doesn't have a full cabinet to execute his mandate, he doesn't have a county secretary, he has nominated a few CECs. What is that advice that you would give him? Because he still has slightly more than 3 years to the end of his term. What advice would you give him to ensure that he doesn't repeat the mistakes you committed or the misses that you made?
I think what he needs to do is just sit back and get the right people. Nairobi has got a lot of good, bright, young men who are well-meaning, who are driven, who would like to be productive, who have got passion for this city. Just get the right people, work with them, guide them. And I'm sure that's exactly what he's planning on doing.